Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 9:15 session, Enneagram 101. As you can see on the screen, an introduction to the Enneagram for your life and business. If we can, we'd like to try to hold questions until the end, but we'll also be monitoring the chat box. So if you have questions, feel free to type them. We'll see if we can get to those. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Ashton Gustafson.
All righty. Thank you guys for having me. I've always enjoyed people in Wisconsin, and it's my pleasure to get to share with you guys here today. If you're wondering what on earth are we about to talk about today, it's a great question. I am a real estate agent by trade. That is the bread and butter of my income and revenue in life. I go on multiple listing appointments every week. I run 2 different brokerages. I have a management company. I have a capital group, but helping people buy and sell real estate is what I do for a living. And in doing that for the last 16 years, I've always been crazy interested in how people work, why people make the decisions that they make, how people lead their lives and navigate their businesses. And about 4 or 5 years ago, this Enneagram crossed my path. And maybe you've heard of it before, maybe you haven't. For those of you that are a little more familiar with it, you kind of have this feeling and understanding about it that the Enneagram really does find you, that you don't necessarily find it. And while there's all sorts of personality profile systems out there, from the DISC profile, Myers-Briggs, StrengthsFinder, all these different things, the reason why I have loved getting to really work with the Enneagram, it is something that as you dig into it, it becomes more vast, it becomes deeper, it becomes wider, it even becomes a little bit more mysterious. I've loved digging into it because it doesn't just tell me the what, it often tells me the why. And so I'll be totally honest with you guys that are on the call this morning. This is a dialogue that is, you're not going to leave here with 10 points to a better listing appointment or 5 ways to scale your business quickly. But I will tell you, the agents that I'm seeing lead a life and a business that is sustainable, predictable, and profitable. They are great students of people. And when you become a student of why people make the decisions that they make, why people think the way they do, where is that narrative coming from with my seller, my buyer, my spouse, whoever, when you can start to peel that onion back a little bit, I think what happens is you become a great student of personality, and in that you help people make better decisions. You help people hear the narrative that maybe they don't even know that they're having. And at the end of the day, I think that you become a redemptive presence in the transaction. To me, I tell my teams all the time, your job today is to be a redemptive presence. It's not necessarily opening doors anymore. It's not necessarily predicting value and things like that for sellers. Is that part of it? Yes. But at the end of the day, I think that being a redemptive presence in the transaction is some of the magic that we bring to our world and to our business. And so here's kind of where we're going to go this morning. We're going to kind of chat through, what is the Enneagram? What are we talking about here? We're going to also help you kind of understand yourself. We're going to help you understand your relationships. And then kind of where do you go from here? Where can you study a little bit more? And let me lead this caveat of this dialogue with this. The Enneagram has to be studied. There are many tests that you can take out there, but at the end of the day, I have found that it's studying the Enneagram, and quite honestly, studying it until it hurts. Studying it until you go, oh man, that just read my mail. Once you start having some humiliation with the Enneagram, I think you have found the number that you are dominant in. And so here it is. And you're like, man, that's a weird symbol that he's showing me today. There's a lot of different things going on in that thing. And there is. And you will see that if you look at the very top, starting at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9 points to this geometric figure. There are, and then you see all these other lines where they connect. That the line up there that's 2 also connects to the 4, also connects to the 8. Why is that? What's going on there? The number at the very top there, the 9, that triangle shape that you see in the middle, it goes down and it touches 3. It goes down and it touches 6. What's that all about? We're going to chat through some of that today, and I think you'll find it to be interesting. You'll notice there's 3, what I'm going to refer to as ancient symbols that are all encapsulated into this great circle. And so it's not that we all don't at times embrace different numbers on this Enneagram circle. You can. And I think if we want to lead an integrated and a wholesome life, I think you will find that, yeah, you absolutely can be and lean into some of these other numbers. But at the end of the day, the number that you're dominant in, it's really connected to 2 other numbers, and we'll talk through those. But you'll see there's some hidden shapes in here. First off, the circle of unity. Think integration, think wholeness. I would invite you to consider this morning. What if I could embrace and become some of the most healthy tendencies of all of these numbers in my life? Like, for instance, the 8. The 8's known as the challenger. And a lot of people think that the negative side of the 8 is that they're always a bull in a china closet. They're a challenger. They just want to push the envelope. The truth is, though, 8s in their most healthy aspect, they're great helpers. They're helpers of the world. They say that Mother Teresa was an 8. So think about that. A challenger, a bull in a china closet, Mother Teresa, yet this person that did great work in the world. You'll also see shape of change, all of these different movements there in that purple figure. And then you've got this Trinity form that's right there in the center. The Enneagram embraces all of these, and it can be a great gift. And so these are the 9 personality types. Again, you see beginning with 9 at the top that moves over to 1, over to 2, to 3, to 4, to 5, to 6, to 7. Each of these, and again, you'll see, I want to keep coming back to these numbers that can connect. You can see that all of these numbers in some way, shape, or form connect in different ways. The 8 to the 5 and to the 2, the 4 to the 1 and to the 2, the 9 to the 3 and the 6. We will chat through really what this means for each of these beautiful numbers. So why the Enneagram? Why this conversation today? Well, my favorite phrase that one of my Enneagram mentors, and I should probably say this too. I have no certificate in the Enneagram. There are people that literally have spent their entire lives not only studying this, but teaching it. I would say that I'm an amateur student. Maybe I've read most than the average Joe on the street, but I'm a student of the Enneagram. And so the reason why I always begin with why is because of this sentence right here, is when we can become self-aware, we can self-correct. And there's a phrase that another one of my teachers, Thomas Keating, said. He says, if you're going to cast a great light in life, you're going to cast a great shadow, which means that great big personality that you bring to the world, it can be a great light, but there's a bunch of stuff in your rearview mirror. There's a shadow side. There are things and places that you have either chosen consciously or subconsciously to not look at. And when we become aware of those subconscious or unconscious narratives, stories, paths that we often take, they can kind of lead us into some destruction. And so I coach, 3 real estate agents every quarter. Of course, I'm coaching my team members all the time. And I'm always asking, where are they in the realm of becoming self-aware? Because I am my greatest asset. I'm also my greatest enemy. Those places that I choose to not look in my life, relationships, and businesses, if I can get clear, if I can get detached, if I can find some freedom in those spaces, I tend to start making better, more joyful, more peaceful decisions in my life. And when I'm making better, more joyful, more peaceful, more rested, concise, true decisions in my life, guess what happens? That permeates my entire life, relationships, and businesses. So when we become self-aware, we can self-correct. And we all want to live with more conscious awareness, conscious intentionality in our lives, relationships, and businesses. I think there's a great starvation, if you will, especially in real estate agents, because you start in the business, you're not that busy your first couple of years, then your business blows up and it kind of snowballs. And all of a sudden you feel like your days don't have intentionality. The next session I'll teach today, I say this all the time. You turn on Jimmy Fallon at the end of your day and you ask, how did I get here? And you just kind of become a cog in this production, never ending production spectrum or wheel, if you will. And I think what we all actually want is sustainability, predictability, and profitability. And the truth is, the keys or the lock is locked from the inside. You hold the keys. Anywhere you feel stuck, imprisoned, there's a wall, there's something that you can't get past. I believe the gates of wherever you feel imprisoned, I believe those are locked from the inside. And the Enneagram, it's not the only tool. It is not the end, but it is a means to the end that can help get you to a more fruitful and joyful way of living your business. And so, pardon me for right out of the gate having this esoteric philosophical dialogue this morning, but man, I've gone all in on believing that the degree to which I can become more consciously intentional about my life, relationship, and business is the degree to which sustainability, predictability, profitability, and joy will start to move out in my life, relationships, and business. I believe that. And so here's where we're going. All right. So the good news and the bad news. I jumped the gun a little bit here. If we're going to cast a great light, we're going to cast a great shadow. That's just true. And so forgive me today if I talk more about some of the negative tendencies that some of us have out of our personality than the positive ones, because you kind of don't need any training or teaching in your positivity, right? Like, let's take 7s, for instance. 7s are social. They are the leaders of the cocktail party. They are always up for a good time. They kind of, you have that friend that's always putting groups together, is hosting dinner parties and all that. That's who they are. 7s, though, they're very pain averse. They don't like pain. The reason they're always putting on another show, putting on another program, putting on another dinner party is because they don't want to look inward. They don't want to see that, hey, maybe there's some things that you need to be doing that could create more sustainability, predictability, and profitability in your life. I may talk a little bit about the shadow today more than the light side. Forgive me on that, but I do believe that these are some of the nooks and crannies that we need to look into in life. Some instructions on when we study this Enneagram. First, listen to the unconscious motivation. Now, I'm not going to go deep into this dialogue here, but typically when you really, really study how you created your personality, I think it's half nature and half nurture. Like, I do think some of this came with the packaging, but most of us had a moment, whether it was when we were 5 or when we were 15 or 18 or 22, we had to find a way to subconsciously cope and become successful within our family group, our social group, or whatever structures we were a part of. And so in order to do that, we created a personality. We created something that could help us navigate life, something that could help us cope through life, something that could help us get the vote of approval from whoever it was, a parent, a grandparent, a coach, a friend group, wherever we were looking to get the vote of approval. Yeah, we built a personality. And so I will try not to get too into the weeds on some of this esoteric side of the Enneagram, but just know that like you did create a personality at some point, and it helped you navigate your life. It helped kind of keep you in. It helped you as part of the tribe. It helped as you keep you part of the family. It gave you a role. It gave you admiration. It was how you were needed. It gave you approval. But that thing needs to be looked at. And so that's what we're looking at today. Don't look and listen for personality traits. Listen for the fears, the needs, and the narratives of each of these numbers. And when you start to understand the fears and the needs and the narratives that each of these numbers have, from a customer standpoint basis, you can really hold the customer's hand and go, okay, can I ask you a question? I'm hearing that you're having a fear along the lines of mortgage rates, payment, neighborhood, all these different things. Is it true? Am I hearing you correctly in this? And then they can start to hear their own narrative. And then when we can name it, then it doesn't become have such a hold on us. And so that's really what I think the Enneagram helps us do, is name so much of the narratives that imprison us. And so this can be something that can for sure help you, not only with yourself, but also your business. So let's start out with type 1. Let me also say, no one is a number. You're never going to be referred to as, oh my gosh, that's such a 1. You are such a 1. Those of us that have studied the Enneagram, we like to say, you are dominant in a number. You are dominant in a number. You don't have a number. This number is not your identity. You tend to just be dominant in type 4, dominant in type 1. But let's look at this. So the one, and if you Google Enneagram, you're going to see all these different things. People will kind of name these numbers different things. We're going to say that type 1 is the reformer, the perfectionist. Those people in your life that there is an instruction book, there is a manual, you follow the manual, right? These are the agents in your business that when they fill out a contract, there's no missing part. They put the correct closing date. They put the amount of closing cost right. They get the earnest money right. There's nothing misspelled. They are, in a lot of ways, perfect. The need to be perfect is their great, great desire. And so they kind of have some of these are these narratives that you may hear of the 1. So their message in their childhood days were, you're a good boy or girl. You only speak when you're spoken to. You always are in line. You always color within the lines. You've remembered your flashcards. You have straight A's. If any of this is like ringing true with you and you're like, oh gosh, that kind of sounds like me as a child, you may identify as someone who is dominant in type 1. Their fear, their great fear. This is my daughter. She's a first child, right? So she's kind of always been like the leader. She's always kind of done everything right and always colored within the lines. Their biggest fear is doing something wrong, because perfection is like the goal. To be perfect is their goal. They want to be good, and they think that the greatest way they can go about doing that is to do what's right. That's their strategy. And so you may have some clients that if you have a client that is dominant in type 1, let me tell you, you have got to find a way to really speak to the rules that are at play. So maybe before the transaction even gets going, you need to go, okay, here's how this deal works. This is how we write a contract. This is how you go into contract. This is when inspections are ordered. This is when the appraisal's ordered. They want to know how the dots connect. Now, the distortion that you can get from these people is critical perfectionism, which means they basically demand that everyone be perfect as they are. That's kind of the funny thing. Be perfect like me. And we know that that's very, very challenging. I'll say this, if you're an agent that's looking to build your business, you want someone that's dominant in type 1 to be your assistant. These are killer assistants, great hires, because they are by the book. And they believe there is one way to do something. They do not like hearing there's multiple ways. They see it, there's one way. And the truth is, most of the time, if we're honest, they're actually right. Their way is actually the best and right way. But they hold on to that. That's their shadow side, is they're not really open to, what if there is a different way? So the one kind of has to give himself or herself a little bit of freedom to hear, maybe there is another way of doing this. But so let's look at this here. So they see that the world is full of errors and mistakes, and they feel obligated to fix them. These are ones. That perfection gives them a sense of control. That's what all of these numbers announce to you, where you think you have control. Now, that's a whole nother conversation, probably not connected to the Wisconsin Association of Realtors meeting or conference, but we're all seeking control, right? Especially in the midst of a chaotic world today where we feel like we have no control. Your Enneagram can be really flexed and on fire these days. And the numbers really do announce where you try to get a sense of control. The need is the need to be right. That's the great need of the one. They feel as though that if they can just have it all lined up and be right, then they've got some identity. Their anger, this is interesting. Their anger is connected to this resentment that everyone doesn't see all the problems the way they do. They're frustrated that everyone doesn't see, oh, you've got this or that going on. Why can't you see how wrong that is? You realize there's only one way to do something correctly. They're really frustrated with that. They suppress their anger because they see it as bad. They don't ever want to be thought as like mean or bad. So anger to them is kind of like, if I'm angry, that means I'm not good. And there's a lot of people, there's this laundry, we call it the laundry closet. You can also call it the dishwasher test. You know if someone is dominant in type 1 on how they load a dishwasher. If every fork is standing in the right fork spot in the right way, if every plate is facing the whole each way the same way, if every dish is perfectly set so that the water can wash it in a certain way, that's you know that you're probably dealing with someone that's Enneagram type 1. When they're unhealthy, they can shame others for their imperfections. Get it together. You know there's a right way to do that. I can't believe you're doing that. Can't believe you're doing it that way. I think that in their health, though, when they're healthy, these people are super reliable. They're so diligent. They're so committed. And they really are great people to work with, because the truth about them is they want to do things right. So that's the one. The two, I probably need to get going a little bit faster here. The two is the helper, the caring, interpersonal type. So let's talk about this too. Their lost message was that you were wanted. So they they do things so that they feel like they are wanted. It's this great need to be needed. That's the need of the two. The need of the two is the need to be needed. Do you know anyone that they just help all the time? It doesn't matter what it is. They see someone whose car is broken down, they're pulling over to help them. They hear a friend, the neighbor is traveling for a week. They're the first one to call and say, "Can I get your mail while you're gone?" These helpers, they are, no one will ever help more than they do. But what happens is they start helping, and then the shadow is they think, well, if I've helped you, then the day is going to come where you're going to help me. So the great light that the two shines in the world is that they just help. They're natural helpers. They're always stacking chairs after the meeting. They're always doing different things like that. But what happens is they kind of have this idea that the more they help you, that the time is going to come where you will help them one day. So they kind of help with some subconscious strings attached. If you look at the two, though, these are beautiful people. They exude all sorts of kindness and generosity. Now, again, like I just said, when they are healthy, their help has no strings attached. Very, they help without an agenda. That's a beautiful two. Unhealthy, though, man, there's lots of strings attached to their help and their service. These are other people that are great great employees, because they're always showing up and they want to help. Their biggest pride, though, the pride of the two, is that they have to overcome because they think they know what you need more than you do. So they can be a little overwhelming at times. They can kind of show up in your life and all of a sudden they're giving you some advice, or maybe they're stepping in on your territory a little bit more than you wish that they would. And the two has to realize that maybe asking someone how they can help is the best thing that they can do. The interesting thing on twos is they are so in tune to your needs and feelings, at least they think that, but they're not in tune to their own. So they just help and they help and they help and they help because it gives them that sense of, I'm needed, I'm noticed, I'm wanted. You will want me if I can help you more. They have to learn this, that being is greater than wanting, having, doing, or serving. Like when the two gets to a place that they realize that their being is enough of a gift, that they're always going to be helping more than the rest of us, that's a beautiful place for them to be. And so a two, in order to move from unhealth into health, they have to realize that it takes great humility to get to the place where they cannot say yes to everyone's needs. They just have to realize they've only got so much energy that they can give. And so they give it in a tasteful way, and then they kind of let go. They have to realize that they're not going to get that appreciation from everyone that they so desire. So maybe they just need to give themselves to serving. The three is the achiever. So the achiever, they are very success-oriented, the pragmatic type. These are people that they win at everything that they do. The fear of failure is their biggest fear. They fear that, man, if I'm a failure, that I'm worthless. But they want to be valuable in the world. And so what they do is they do things very well, or they avoid things that they won't do very well. So the three, you may think, wow, everything she touches turns to gold. Everything she does is successful. The truth is, she will not touch things where she can't be successful. It's that constant chase to be successful. And so as we look at the threes are always attuned, not to their own feelings, but to the feelings of the room. What's going on in the room? These are great public speakers. They can always feel what message do I need to bring to everybody? Oh, those people over there, I need to touch them in a way. I need to connect with that person in a way. These are very CEO, business-driven folks. A lot of real estate agents are 3s. You ask yourself, what are a lot of the numbers that are dominant for real estate agents? 2s, 3s, 7s, 8s. Those are lots of real estate agents. The main desire for a 3 is they want to be admired. They want to be admired. And so what they do is they put on masks, and they can kind of become a chameleon. They can be whatever they need to be in real time. They can swap in and out of like, oh, I need to be this business persona for that person. I need to be that sports expert for that person. I need to be this. They're really, really good at that. But the problem is they forget who they are. They know who everyone else is. They know who they need to be in order to impress everyone else. But it gets real unhealthy whenever they aren't actually their true selves. And so what the 3 has to learn to do is drop the mask, become that authentic person that they are. They can smell authenticity better than anybody. So if you ever want to know, if you ever want to get a read on someone, ask a 3, hey, what's your take on that person? Or a 3 is if they're working with a buyer, they've got a really good nose on, oh, this person's wanting to buy a house today. Or this person, they're not really, they're just kind of running around looking at houses. They're not that committed. They've got a great nose on them. But their biggest fear is that fear of worthlessness. The 4, the individualist. These are creatives. This is like Walt Disney. We call them the individualists, the romantics. 4s they're super sensitive. They're very introspective. Their mantra is, how could I say this? No one understands me. Nobody gets me. Nobody understands me. And the truth is, they actually don't really know themselves that well. So they feel like they can understand everyone else except themselves. And so some of these messages or fears that they have is that they just fear they don't have identity or significance because they haven't just realized who they are before any performance, before any power that they have in life, before any prestige, before any possessions. They have to learn who they are. And so their great desire is to be themselves, but their great work is to figuring out who they are. So the reason why you see poets and musicians as 4s is because they always have this great longing. Nobody gets me. Nobody understands me. And so if you have those friends that, every time you talk to them, they just kind of give you this, I feel like I'm not known and I feel like no one knows me. You can probably know that they probably are dominant in type 4. They always feel like an outsider. They feel like they're misunderstood. But their great need, the need of the 4 is to be special and unique. But the work and the journey for the 4 is to realize that nothing is missing. So as they awaken, what 4s do so well is they point out the hidden beauty in our lives. They point out little places of where gratitude is that maybe we missed it. When they're unhealthy, they're kind of addicted to their own pain or thinking that the world isn't as it should be. But when they are in health, they really awaken. They write a beautiful song. They write a beautiful poem. They wake us all up. We need 4s to wake us up to that beauty. But the biggest thing 4s have to realize is they're not their feelings. They simply have feelings. And so if you're working with a 4, they can kind of be like, I'm never going to find a house. The perfect house doesn't exist. What you have to do is you kind of have to hold their hand to go, hey, yeah, the perfect house doesn't exist. So we're never going to find that perfect home, but maybe we can find a home that has some perfect places in it. And when you can give them that little truth or that nugget or that insight, that really, really helps them navigate their days. The 5, the investigator. So 5s are scientists, physicists, philosophers. They believe they have control through knowledge, through knowing the answer. They're the investigator, the observer, the intense cerebral type. So if you're ever working with a 5, abuse them with as much information as you can. I'm talking get down to the nitty gritty. Don't just talk price per foot for the neighborhood. Talk price per foot for the block. Tell them what the neighboring property sold for. Break down average utilities for that specific house. Do anything you can do to give them competence. If they do not feel they are competent, they will become recluse. They will not make decisions. They will not find ways to do things. They want to be masters. Now, the problem with 5s, I shouldn't say the problem, the hurdle for 5s is in that desire to become so competent about things, to get all of the information that they need lined up and understood. They can actually specialize in some kind of useless things. So they get super addicted to like knowing, I don't know. They could maybe tell you, here's all of the cable TV providers that you should do today and what they do and don't do. And here's YouTube TV, and here's Hulu, and here's a Fire Stick, and here's the Time Warner, and here's the Dish, and here's this and that. And they can just, for a month, they can go spend all this time on figuring out what every little thing does, and to anyone other than people that are just interested that day in knowing about cable TV, it's a bit useless. So they kind of, if you're dominant in type 5, you need to just make sure that you're looking and not overwhelming yourself in some information that maybe isn't that useless. But information and data, they help them feel like they are making good decisions. So this is an interesting thing about them. They recharge with knowledge, books, and information, not people. They tend to not be very social. So to cope with the fear, they go into their mind where they feel like they have control. And their work is to learn generosity, awakening to abundance. They need to learn how to participate with life instead of just observe it. But their great fear is helplessness and incompetence. So if you're working with a 5, do everything that you can do to get them to competence. Competence changes everything for these guys. The 6 is the loyalist. Now they say that the number that has the most people that are dominant in this type are the 6s. Those that seek security, those that they want to know what tribe they're a member of. And I think this makes some sense, you know. You don't have to be on Instagram or Facebook long enough to go, where do people want to put their stake in on, you know, their identity, this political party, this belief, this or that. There's a lot of loyalists in the world. And I think the reason why we see that people are loyalist is because numbers give us confidence. If I can become a part of a group, then if I can become a part of a tribe, then I have a sense of security. And so you see a lot of 6s in the world. They seek safety. Their big fear is being without support or guidance. They want to be secure. So what do they do to be secure? Well, they find a group, they find the group rules, and they don't move away from those rules. Here's the group I'm a part of. These are the rules we obey, and this is how we do it. Now, I will say this about 6s. They keep us together. They're community binders, but their fear is their hurdle, and it comes in the form of anxiety. So like a lot of your buyers, if you feel like they are not making decisions quickly because they fear either not being in the right school district or not getting the right house or whatever, they're always scanning what can go wrong. It's like they just have this PTSD that things are always going to be wrong. But unconsciously, they just want to be safe and secure. And a lot of times that safety and security is connected to just narrative that they have in their mind. And so they're always looking to an outside authority figure to help with their fear, groupthink. These people, the Dave Ramsey fans of the world, maybe you'll hear people say, well, what does Dave say about this? They love grabbing onto someone that they believe is their fearless leader and say, well, Dave says I should get a 15-year mortgage, not a 30, things like that. Their work is that they just need to learn to trust their own gut and true nature. And so when sixes can just kind of find that flow and go, this feels good to me. This feels like something I want to do. And they don't have to have everyone cheering them on in their decisions. That is when you're finding someone that's plugged in the right way. The sevens, the Mick Jaggers, the enthusiast. These are busy bees, busybodies. They're always seeking variety. These were the leader of your fraternity or sorority back in the day. These are the soccer moms that always have things going on for their kids. Their big fear, this is an interesting take on them, is they don't want to be deprived of something fun or trapped in pain. They always want to know where's the next party, and they do not want to miss out on it. So if you're working with a buyer that tends to be dominant in type 7, they need to hear that this neighborhood always has block parties, or people are always hanging out in the front yard together. They just love knowing where the next party is. And listen, without sevens, we would miss out on a lot of joy. Because they always want to avoid pain in difficult situations by creating a new idea or an adventure. These are folks that are kind of like the class clown. And so the work of a 7 is to focus. So maybe you have a buyer in 7s, man, they just want to see every house, because what if they miss out on the perfect one? The 7, their work is just to narrow down and to focus. And so it's always a big shock to the ego, when they experience some type of transformation or liberation that just allows them to focus more. But their big fear is being trapped or deprived. So if you see that in one of your clients, really speak to that. Hey, what do you feel like you're missing? What do you feel like you're going to be deprived of? Where do you think you're going to be trapped? Type 8 is this challenger. The challenger, they're very powerful and dominating. But let me say this, of all the numbers that tend to get a bad rap, the 8 tends to be that person. And it's just because they're an aggressive personality. They say Sinatra was an 8, where when he came into the room, everyone could feel that energy. If you know someone, a guy or a gal, that they feel like they're always pushing the envelope, very aggressive. That's the challenger. But the truth is, their fear is they don't want to be controlled by others. And so I will teach you here that when you're communicating with an 8, the 8 immediately wants to know how far they can push you. There's a lot of real estate agents out there that are 8s. And maybe that you kind of feel like they bully a bit. My invitation for you on communicating with them is aggressively meet them at their energy. They want to push, kind of push back in a tasteful way. And they'll go, oh, okay, I can see how far I can push that person. If they think they can just push and push and push, they're going to do it. So if they're not in health, you feel like they're constantly fighting. The truth is, they just want to determine their own course, and they don't want to be pushed around. They bully, or what feels like a bully, because they don't want to be bullied. Now, these guys radiate strength. They can feel larger than life. But they don't want to oppose, they oppose anyone who tries to put limitations on them. The work of the 8 is to work on their innocence, to become childlike, to not be the bully. And this is really where they find courage and vulnerability to be powerful people in the world. You remember I shared that, they say that Mother Teresa was an Enneagram 8. That's a real interesting thing to me. But in their health, when they become integrated, they become beautiful people in the world. And the 9 is the peacemaker. These guys are really easygoing. And the thing about the peacemakers is their big fear is that they're not connected. And their desire is they want to be at peace. These are the people that go, oh, I don't know. What do you think? Tell me, should I buy this house? Is it okay if I buy this house? And so they kind of have to learn how to not be so concerned about what everyone else thinks, but also kind of learn how to be connected just to what they think. And so the 9s, their work is in owning their own life path and not following the crowd. So if you're working with a 9, invite them to this liberating idea that they have agency, that, hey, you can choose what you want in a house. You don't have to do what HGTV says you have to do. What do you want? What makes you excited? You want a pool? Let's go find you a pool. Do you want a craft room? Well, I heard on HGTV that craft rooms are a waste of money. Well, what if you get a lot of joy from that? They see the world through everyone else's eyes. And one of the great invitations, I think, that you can bring to a 9 is, tell me what the world looks like through your eyes. Tell me what you see, what you enjoy. And when they can get into that space, man, it's beautiful. And they're great includers. They never want someone missing. They never want to feel like someone's missing out. So they can really bring groups together. But their great fear is loss and separation. So they kind of have some of that 6 energy where they kind of want to be in group think sometimes. But 9s are beautiful people. And again, just to run through kind of some of these again, the 1, and someone asked here, can we share these slides? Absolutely. We'll get these slides shared to you guys. But you've got these fears and these desires. And as you start to learn how to identify people in their dominant number, these are some of the great narratives that you can unlock for people to hear. So I'm going to just keep going here. So Enneagram relationships, these are deposits and withdrawals. So for the 1, for 1s, don't criticize and scold them. They will withdraw. Don't question their integrity. Remember, these people do everything right. Show up on time with a 1, because I promise you they're going to be 10 minutes early. What you can do for deposits with them is just assure them that they don't have to be perfect. Admit when you yourself have made an error. Give them what they would normally deprive themselves of, and bring out their playful side. The 2, what you don't want to do with a 2 is take them for granted. Tell them thank you. These people help people all the time. But to affirm them, show them appreciation. Reassure them that they matter. They get meaning from being needed. So when they know that they're needed, man, you can really, really get somewhere with 2s. With 3s, don't focus on their defeats or their shortcomings. Don't remind them of their failures. Praise them, but affirm their personal value. Don't just affirm their performance. And help them be a little bit less serious by letting them have fun. They 3s can be a little bit serious all the time because they feel like they're on and they need to be performing. So wherever they're at, remember the mask. They'll wear that mask. They'll put on the monkey suit, I call it, to be whoever they need to be. 4s, in short, you don't want to be insensitive to their needs or feelings. But to make deposits, just encourage them. Ask them questions about how they're doing. Let them know that you'll stay with them while they're working through their feelings. The 5, the investigator, remember, don't question their competency. If they are talking about something, they know a lot about it. If they do not know about something, they will not talk about it at all. It's almost like they only will speak when they are experts. So to be a deposit to them, be quiet, educate them, but give them plenty of space and really engage them on topics that they are interested in. The loyalist withdraws. Don't put down their point of view. Don't put down the group that they really associate with. Find the good, true, and beautiful in whatever group that they feel that they're dominant with or connected to, and affirm that. You will be affirming them in their connection, your connection and friendship to them. And if you acknowledge their strengths and their talents, that kind of helps them gives them a sense of identity. With 7s, don't restrict their freedom. These are the Mick Jaggers. They want to be footloose and fancy free, young, wild, and free. So give them a lot of choices. Maybe if you're going to show them houses, you can go, hey guys, we can do one of 3 things today. How do you want to do it? That will give you a lot of good insight with them. The 8, don't try to take advantage. Don't be wimpy with them. Don't beat around the bush. Be very precise, concise. Tell them what you think. Stand up for yourself. Be confident and strong. And that will allow them to go, okay, I'm okay with that person. If they can maneuver you or the situation, they will do it because it gives them a great sense of control. And the 9, don't yell. Don't be aggressive. Be patient. Listen and gently ask about their state and what they want or need from the situation. When you do that with these peacemakers, that gives them some room to really make some good leaps. So I've got 5 minutes here. I'm sure there's a lot of questions that you guys have. I'm going to run as fast as I can through some of these, like how do numbers cross a river? Kind of gives you a good vibe of it. And then I'll be here if you guys have any questions. So first one is this. The 1s, if they were going to approach a river, they approach it from the one and only perfect place to cross. The 2s start to cross the river, and then they double back looking, who else can I help get across the river? Who can come with me? But they never get across the river themselves. The 3s, they wait at the edge until they're the center of attention. And then when they're at their best, they start doing the stroke across the river and get to the other side. The 4s, they use a variety of fancy styles and even do water ballet. The 5s, they never get into the river. They hide behind the trees and they take notes on what everyone else is doing. The 6s, they stride into the water when everyone else goes at the same time. The 7s, they splash and they dive and they have a party. They don't really care if they ever get across the river or not. The 8s, they march into the river, swim upstream, and go against the current. And the 9s amble into the river and float downstream with the current. So you guys are going to have all these other different things that kind of outline what each of these Enneagram numbers, what they do and don't do, where they go in stress. So again here, and I'm just going to kind of leave this, the 1 goes to 4 in stress and goes to 7 in growth. So what does that mean? Well, the 1, remember, they want to do everything right. They want to have all their T's crossed and their I's dotted. They actually grow in life when they kind of get some Mick Jagger footloose and fancy free. When they kind of let go of the rules for a while, they can become a little more healthy versions of themselves. but they go to 4 in stress because they go, no one understands me. No one understands how perfect I am, and no one understands how imperfect the world is. So you're going to be able to look through these slides here and look and see that the 2 goes to 8 in stress, but 4 in growth. The 3 goes to 9 in stress, but 6 in growth. The 4 goes to 1 in growth and 2 in stress. The 5 goes to 8 in growth, 7 in stress. The 6 goes to 9 in growth, 3 in stress. 7 goes to 1 in stress, 5 in growth. The 8, 2 in growth, 5 in stress. And the 9 goes to 3 in growth and 6 in stress. So there's also these triads here. Forgive me that we don't have enough time to really get through some of these today, but I think you'll find that some of the great things that these, I would almost invite you to consider that numbers have energies, a shame energy, a fear energy, an anger energy, just kind of if you see someone and they're not content, joyful, or happy, and you're trying to determine that number, see, is it shame they're feeling? Is it fear? Is it anger? And when you do that, you'll start to discover the number. And so my encouragement and invitation for you is I'm going to be doing some coaching on Enneagram starting at the beginning of 2020. I'm going to be doing group coaching for agents. And we're going to dig down into this a little bit more, where you can understand some of your own type. So if any of this stuff today, you're like, I think I may want to hear some more of that. I'm going to have some group gatherings in the first quarter of 2020 to help you kind of understand a bit of this. But it's really just to understand yourself, your team, and your clients. There's the Enneagram Institute is a place where you can go take a test. You can dig a little bit deeper. And there's also this thing here called the Ennea app. I believe Enneagram Institute's kind of the best place to start. The Ennea app, it's good, but everyone that's really hung around the Enneagram for a while has said, study your number, get to know your number, and then from there, you can find some other things. So there's some other books here, resources, The Essential Enneagram, The Enneagram in Love and Work, The Wisdom of the Enneagram. And with that being said, thank you guys deep into kind of a challenging dialogue this morning, but if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them for you. Oh, how do we sign up for your coaching? If you'll email me, Ashton@AshtonGustafson.com, we can chat through kind of what that's going to look like. I'm right now, I do individual coaching with 3 agents per quarter, but there will come a time where potentially some group coaching, especially if you have a team, it may be good for that. We're going to be having calls in the first quarter, and I'm more than happy to kind of chat through what that could look like for you. We're building out that criteria to right now, actually, and that's going to launch in the first quarter of 2020.
Great. Any other questions? Reading. How do they get a copy of the slides? You said you'd share those with them.
Yeah, can I send it to you and you can share it with someone somehow?
Yes.
Or no. How about this? If you're on the call today, just email me, Ashton@AshtonGustafson.com, and I'll send you a copy of it.
Okay. Great. Anywhere else? I think we're good. Wow, that was a lot of great information. Thank you so much, Ashton.
You bet.
And, looks like we have a little 15-minute break until the next one.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Okay, we'll see you.